Hi, grade 4. Today you're going to be learning about calculating equivalent fractions. So before we get into that, we're going to do a little bit of review vocabulary with one extra piece in there. So remember, a fraction means it names a part of a whole. So 4/8 is a fraction. So equivalent fractions are fractions that represent the same number or the same amount of something. A numerator is the top number of a fraction. It tells how many parts in a whole are being considered. So 4 and 4/8 is the numerator. The denominator is the bottom number of a fraction. It tells the total number of equal parts in a whole. So 8 of 4/8 is the denominator. All right, so we're going to go over apples again today, but today we're going to add on just a little bit more. So we have one apple, we cut it in half again, you have 2 equal halves. You give one to your sibling, so you get to keep one half, your sibling gets to keep the other half. Let's make the fraction for it. So how many pieces of the apple do you get to keep? How many are red? 1. So you put a 1 with a line underneath it. And then how many parts are there in total? There's 2 halves, so there's 2 parts. So we put the 2 underneath the line. So 1/2 is our fraction for this apple. So 1 is the numerator, 2 is the denominator. So we cut the apple in half again. So you have 4 parts. You give 2 of those parts to your sibling, and you get to keep the other 2. So let's make a fraction for how many parts you get to keep. So how many parts are red? 2 pieces are red. So you put a line underneath the 2. And then how many pieces are there in total? How many parts are there in total? 4. So you put a 4 underneath the line. So 2/4 is your fraction. 2 is your numerator and 4 is your denominator. But now 1/2 is equal to 2/4. So they're equivalent fractions. If you look at the apples above 1/2, you get to keep half the apple. So you got to keep half, you gave your sibling half. And now 2/4, look at that apple, you got to keep 2 pieces and your sibling got to keep 2 pieces. But do you look at the shading of the apple? So you still got to keep half of the apple. Even though you got 2 pieces this time instead of 1, it's still the same as half of the apple. It's just cut up into more pieces. So these fractions are representing the same apple, the same amount of the apple that you get to keep. It's just in different cuts. So that's kind of what we're talking about today. So we're going to talk about how to calculate these equivalent fractions. So ignore the lines at the bottom for now. So 1/2 is equal to something over 8. This is what it's going to look like in your textbook today, so I want to go over exactly how to calculate it in this format. So 1/2 is equal to something over 8. So we have to figure out what that something is, what that number above 8 should be. So the very first step of how to calculate equivalent fractions is to divide the denominators. So what are the denominators in this question? Which numbers? 2 and 8. Remember, they're at the bottom. It's the bigger word. So 2 and 8. So we do 8 divided by 2 is equal to, do that in your head quickly, 8 divided by 2. What times 2 is equal to 8? 4. All right, and then step number 2 is to multiply the numerator and the quotient of step number 1. So the numerator is which number? 1. And the quotient we know is number 4, so we have to do 1 times 4, which is equal to 4. So that means our number that has to go above 8 would be 4. So 1/2 is equal to 4/8. Now I'm going to show you with some boxes that actually makes sense. So we have 2 boxes at the bottom. So the first box, which is cut into 2, is representing the very first fraction. So one of the halves is blue and the other one is gray. So the fraction's representing the blue. So that's equal to, and the other box beside that one is representing 4/8. So it's cut into 8 pieces and 4 of the pieces are in blue. So 4 of the pieces is equal to the 4 at the top. But now look at those 2 boxes. The same part of the boxes is blue. It's just cut into more pieces, the second box. So they're the equal fractions. It's still telling you the exact same amount, just in different, it's just cut into different pieces. So they're equal, they're equivalent. So that means the answer would be 1 over 2 is equal to 4 over 8. So we're going to try that once more, see if you guys can get this one. Do it by yourselves. So the very first step is to divide the denominators. So remember, which ones are the denominators? 6 and 30. So would you do 6 divided by 30? Does that work? No, so you do 30 divided by 6. You do the bigger number as the dividend and the smaller number as the divisor. So 30 divided by 6. So what would that equal? Think about that in your head. It would equal 5. So now step number 2 is to multiply the numerator and the quotient of step number 1. So the numerator is number 5 and the quotient is number 5. So you'd be doing 5 times 5, which is equal to 25. So it means 25 would go above the 30 there. So the answer would be 5 over 6 is equal to 25 over 30. And if you look at those numbers there, you could do 5 times 5 to equal 25 and 6 times 5 to equal 30. And because you're multiplying both of the numerator and the divisor by the same number, they would be equivalent fractions. All right, grade 4, hopefully you guys understood that. If not, if you guys still have more questions, you can come to me, message me, or call me, and I'll be able to hopefully help you through it. If not, I'm sure you guys will be okay and enjoy time at home. Bye, grade 4.